Hi, everyone. Welcome to this episode of the Scouting for Growth podcast. I am delighted to welcome Mark Stern to the show today. Mark is an accomplished founder and the CEO of Custom Box Agency, an award-winning boutique specializing in bringing digital offers to life through innovative offline box experiences. Yes, offline box experiences. Prior to launching his entrepreneurial journey, Mark served as a top-ranked strategy consultant at Deloitte and earned an MBA from Duke University. Mark's work has received widespread recognition. He's been featured in Joe Coleman's best-selling book, Never Lose an Employee Again, and was named a Forbes Next 1,000 Entrepreneur. From championing physical to digital connections that foster deeper customer engagement to helping companies optimize their entire customer lifecycle, Mark's insights on customer experience design can benefit any business looking to grow effectively and sustainably. Today, Mark will share how he made the leap from corporate to startup life. He will offer practical tips for integrating physical touchpoints into a digital world to differentiate, right, and discuss the secret sauce behind building high impact customer journeys. I can't wait to dive into his wealth of knowledge. So let's begin. Welcome, Mark, to the Scouting for Growth podcast. Hi, Mark. Thank you so much for joining me on Scouting for Growth today.
Sabine, I'm thrilled to be here. Looking forward to the conversation. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, it's a pleasure. So let's get started. I read that actually you started your career at Deloitte, and you know what? I have quite a lot of friends coming from Deloitte. With no surprise, I actually come from IBM PwC.
Oh
So,
yeah.
you hop in between consultancy, but you decided to become an entrepreneur as well. So what inspired you to make that jump, right? To move away from corporate life like I did and to support maybe the world of young ventures and build Custom Box Agency.
That's such a good question. It's one of those things that I never, if you told me growing up I would be building an agency that specializes in boxes, I would have said you lost your mind. But what it happened was I grew up in Alabama, and growing up, I was told that there was this natural progression to life. You graduate high school, you go to college, you graduate college, you get a big job, and then you go to grad school, and then you get the big job after grad school, and the house with the white picket fence, and so be it. It's life. And I used to joke to say I was the poster child of that since, I graduated high school, went to college. I was president of my high school, college, and grad school. Worked one job from undergrad to grad school. Got my MBA at Duke, and then it started at Deloitte. And for me, I was like, this is life, and I'm doing the corporate game because this is what I'm supposed to be doing, and everyone around me was just like me. And it was 2013. I read a book that someone at Deloitte recommended. It was Keith Ferrazzi's Never Eat Alone, and started like resonating with the message, following him on YouTube. And it led me down this rabbit hole of videos that eventually came to this conference called A-Fest. And it's a conference by a company called Mind Valley. Vishen Lakhiani puts this on, but it brings together at the time 250 entrepreneurs from all over the world. And I like had this inner desire to be an entrepreneur, but this was like way out there for me because it was Burning Man parties at nighttime and TED Talk speakers at daytime with these entrepreneurs. And it was a point at Deloitte that all I was doing was working, being the road warrior, traveling, waking up at 4:45 to go to the airport to fly to my client and rinse and repeat week after week. And when I went to this conference, one, I couldn't convince any friends to go to the conference because for them it was like that sounds so much fun, but no one would make the jump. But it was something that I wanted to experience, and what I didn't know was that everyone at this conference was for me, the mythical characters I had read about in the 4 Hour Work Week by Tim Ferriss. I didn't know
Yeah.
these people actually existed, but they were all online entrepreneurs, digital marketers, this whole realm that I didn't know existed. And in 2013, that's kind of when this bubble of the world I lived in shattered. And it was kind of like seeing how you can have a fulfilling life through a different lens. And it took me from 2013 to 2018 to finally build up the courage because in my mind, coming out of business school, I was $165,000 in student loan debt,
Yeah.
and jumping into entrepreneurship just felt irresponsible at the time. And I finally, what pushed me over the edge was it was the end of 2017. It was the only time you can slow down as a consultant, which is between Christmas and New Year's. I'm sure you know that where your brain can finally slow down. And the best way I could describe it is I went to bed. This was December 27th, 2017, and woke up in the middle of the night with tears in my eyes. And I had this premonition that if I stay in this job, it would kill me. And that was it. And I was on the verge of becoming a junior partner at Deloitte. I came back, had to be in Dallas on January 3rd, and just told the partner I reported to, I can't explain it. I have to go. I will stay as long as you need me to, because you know what it's like. It's hard to put your 2 weeks in an environment like that. But I had nowhere to go. I just knew if I released Deloitte out of my mind, I could create the mental capacity and get creative again just by letting go because it occupied so much of my headspace. And finally transitioned out in May of 2018. And that kind of led me down this road of, exploring the realm of online entrepreneurship.
Yeah, it's interesting, right? When we start diving into and evaluating our lives, because very similar to you, at some point I decided to live corporate life, and my trigger point, I guess, for me was that I'm quite a good closer, and
Ah,
the problem is the numbers keep on increasing, and I started having panic attack, the failure, the fear of failure. And so I just had to say, you know what? I don't need to make that much million to be successful for my own purpose. I just want to find that creativity and that balance as well.
yeah.
And so looking at your path, right, identifying your opportunity, where did you first spot the potential of offline, right? Offline boxed experiences. I thought that was fascinating when
Yeah.
we are moving today into a highly digital, AI-driven world, that you actually reinventing the world with offline. So how did you validate the idea and where did
It
it come from?
It was an accident. It was never meant to be the business. I had decided to start a business in virtual events. This was back in 2018, and someone told me you could do these virtual conferences, virtual summits that you bring together all these leaders. And for me, I was like, this is a great way to do lead gen. It's a great way for me to put myself out there and start to connect with other people. And by having a date that this event was going live, it kind of held me responsible and accountable to making sure things were ready. And you know this coming from corporate, a blessing and a curse of corporate is this idea of is it client ready?
Yeah,
And the online space is this belief of done beats perfect. And I come from the world that client ready, it's either client ready or it's not ready at all. And so just the standards of how I approach the online realm was just very different. But the thing that was kind of built out of necessity was this idea that I would invest in these programs online and I would attend these events online or buy courses or subscribe to software as a service platforms. And it felt like they made me run through such hoops just to get set up and be successful. And it was like, if you're going to invest $2,000 in a course or $10,000 or more into a coaching program, I just wish you would send me the tools I needed out of the gates to be set up for success. And
yeah,
so when I hosted this virtual summit, at the time, I need to have the publication it's somewhere around here. I built a publication called Entrepreneur Elements. It was all about the shifting from corporate to entrepreneurship. And I built this like literal depiction of a periodic table of all the base elements that you need to know and sent this out to anyone who purchased a ticket to this virtual summit. What I didn't expect is the people who received the publication started doing videos showing it off. They started taking pictures with it. They were going live in their Facebook groups, teaching from it. They were saving it. And I still have people to this day comment on it. But what it showed me was there's something interesting that when I mixed physical and digital together, all of a sudden I was getting these unboxing videos, which a digital only product couldn't do. And all of a sudden, everyone receiving it was becoming an ambassador and all this organic traffic that was being generated as a result. So that was the first test. The second test was um, I didn't want to do a summit with 40 people. I wanted to go deeper with 10 people because I think about the consumer and I hated the model in the sense of you're going to dump 40 speakers on me with 40 different perspectives and say I have, 3 days to watch all this content. It's overwhelm. I didn't want to create overwhelm for my customer. And so the next one that I delved into was this idea of high ticket selling. And
Mhm.
so I broke down high ticket sales into 10 different ways to conduct it and found speakers who excelled at those 10 different modalities and decided to bring a box to life. I can actually see it up there. But I just had this was like, I'd love to send you a box set of 10 different ways to think through your own high ticket product. And you can leverage these tools and these insights from these speakers to start to think through which speakers should I listen to on the summit, because you don't need to listen to all 10. And you can fill out this assessment that tells you listen to this speaker based on the makeup of your business that had just best practices on how to structure your high ticket offer. And we built this box that was the high ticket online box. And again, what I didn't expect is the second that people received the box, they did these unboxing videos again, and they were talking for 3 to 7 minutes, just excited about all the pieces of it. And they started selling the product again for me. So that was it. After that, it was this idea that if you ever have a digital product, you have to complement it with something physical because physical can like tap into other modalities that digital can. And what I mean by that is if we experience the world through our senses, the sense of sight, sound, touch, taste, smell, digital products only tap into what you see and what you hear. When I bring in a new modality like physical, now I can all of a sudden tap into other senses. It feels premium and it truly is what we call a new opportunity with how you can engage your customers. So that's kind of where this all came from was I was just watching the behavior and I didn't see it for the longest time until people started saying, how are you doing this? And finally clued into it to say, maybe there's an opportunity here that I'm not paying attention to and ultimately went all in on it.
Well, it's fascinating because,
Yeah.
like I like learning. We are in the learning world. And so I did buy the course and trying to learn, e-commerce and new modality, as you call them. But usually you never do them, right? You buy them and then you
Mhm.
renew them every year because you said, I need to do this. But you find the time, as you said, between Christmas and New Year. So it's interesting to find this unboxing experience as a means to actually create a different experience and actually probably only have one needs in those boxes, right? You just have to actually excel in those two or three things and actually feel fulfilled, which is super interesting to me, actually, Mark. But so what was the biggest challenge for you to come to that realization and then to start scaling a custom box agency? You probably had to do some pivot ups and downs, right?
Oh, totally. I think the biggest thing was first realizing the opportunity. It's so easy to like fall in love with the story in your head for the business that you're building out, but to take a step back and say, it's not about you, it's truly about your customers and your customer needs. I launched a challenge called the Custom Box Challenge back in 2019. This was like going into winter 2019, right before COVID. And the only reason I did that was because I was growing this business in virtual events, and everyone kept saying, "How are you doing these boxes?" And I would get on the call and show them how to do it and tell them how to do it. And finally was like, I'm going to build a product to like buy back my time and they can go through it. What I didn't expect was that this product would take off and people would go through it and come right back to me saying, we love like your perspective on how to create these box experiences. Can you build it for us? So it was never meant to be the business. And then when COVID happened, it was my mentor who looked at me saying, I've started going around saying, who is Mark Stern? Half of them said, you're the virtual event guy. The other half said, you're the custom box guy. So you're confusing people. And I mean, that was when I had the realization, when I came from corporate America, Deloitte, and you know this from your days in corporate America, they value you being the world's greatest generalist. They truly want you to be good at everything. Entrepreneurship does not value you being the world's greatest generalist. They want you to be known for something so you can help people direct people to you and vice versa. And so that simple question, I thought about it, and we're now in the beginning of COVID when everyone's trying to like gauge what is a virtual event. The virtual event game became bloody red as a in terms of competition because everyone became a virtual event expert overnight. But these boxes and how we were approaching this to get results faster was this like unknown, exciting realm. And so this business I'd been building for years, I killed and went 100% on the box experiences. And doing that, the business skyrocketed from zero to over 1 million in the first year just by pivoting and focusing on, this opportunity.
Yeah, as you are speaking, I remember one of my really close friends. As you know, I'm in finance, risk management, insurance, and one of the experiences he created actually was around a design credit card, like the heavy
Oh
Amex
yeah.
metal card. He created an experience with the card and invited only 10 executives within our industry and sent the card in a really stylish, envelope. And I guess there was no one which didn't come to the dinner. Everybody came to the dinner when they actually received this experiential, I would say, credit card,
Ah,
which
love
was
it.
like opening the door, right? It was one of those cards which allowed you to open a door to a special dinner place, just to
So
show
good.
that, experience is important. And partly because we get so much information thrown at us, it is great to actually experience something differently,
Yeah.
right? So, looking at your experience design approach, actually, Mark, you advocate blending physical and digital, right? And
Mhm.
design, therefore, really unique customer journeys. Can you explain to us what experience design looks like within
Sure.
your environment?
Yeah, and it all hinges on, for me, a key part of the experience is what is the actual customer journey. And to me, the customer journey has a beginning, middle, and an end. And so when we look at that, one of the things that we do when our clients work with us is we truly want to go through your products or services. We say there's three types of journeys in your business, and think about your customer life cycle. You acquire a customer, then you have to deliver your products and services, and then you want to retain them. Those are three different types of campaigns that we can go delve deep into, because acquisition campaigns are about how do people find you, to nurturing them to becoming a customer. Delivery campaigns look at, now that you're a customer or client, how do I onboard you and get you the promise as to why you became a client in the first place. Retention, a lot of times, is introducing the next journey. So now that we've accomplished this, what's next? Or it could be awards and recognition. I want to incentivize you that if you hit this certain milestone, a form of gamification, then I want to celebrate you by sending you something. And then I may reactivate you by introducing the next journey. So, how we like to do this, and there's so many different ways, our boxes and what we're known for. Boxes can be all different shapes and sizes, but our mainstay size is what we call small box. The reason we love small box is that I know that when you read a book, you put it on a bookshelf. So if we know that's the behavior of people, is to naturally say, I'm not going to throw it out, I'm going to put it on a bookshelf. Why not create experiences that are a little bit bigger than a book? Why don't we brand the spine? We may take it a step further, saying that this could be box one of four. And so if you have a year-long program or a multi-year program, by doing that, you're creating this open loop to say, if you want to close the loop and collect all the pieces, you have to keep playing the game. So what we like to see inside the box is a couple of things. A welcome note, a getting started guide. To me, that's one of the most powerful sales pieces you can do to orient people on the journey that they're about to start and seed your universe. I like to also see a journey map. Let me show you the journey that you're about to go on. Many businesses have different phases. How can I have a visual depiction on one page to say, this is our recipe that's going to get you the result? And then I like to include all the tools and resources. And so it's not uncommon. I'll show you, this is someone in the insurance space. You'll see that come to life, that they have a welcome note and the pieces that are inside here, a getting started guide that welcomes them to the program, a journey map. How we did the journey map, they have this kind of visual reflection, but more importantly, from a gamification standpoint, we did a coin board where they can collect coins and put it into the actual board itself. And then all the tools and resources as they're navigating the program. There's four envelopes in this box: phase one, phase two, phase three, and phase four. Inside every envelope literally is an action list to say, step by step, here's what you need to do. Because when you join a program or start working on a service, it's not about the overwhelming me exposing everything to you. Let's keep the dialogue focused on the step that you need to complete at the time and make it clear of what it is, what the outcome is, and then how to get there, and really truly give you all the tools and resources that you need. And with them, we also developed the workbook that goes with it. There's so many different ways to do this, but it's truly not thinking things like, for me, what I don't want people to think about is swag, that we say, we joke and say swag, like promotional items means stuff without a goal. I want you to think of product development and how we can truly get into your program and give people the structure and the incentive structure to want to take one step at a time to start to get those. And for me, I love data. And so I can engineer feedback loops to say, when you hit a certain milestone, how can I get you to provide me with the information I need? So one, I can celebrate you, but two, it also gives me good intel to make the product or program better.
Yeah, fascinating because you already mentioned, right? Swag means stuff without a goal. But what you are trying to do here is by bringing a very well purposeful built box to give people the asset and the tools they need to be successful. And then you can actually bring them on the journey as you were explaining. And so are those box available around the world? Where are your clients? Give us some examples. I mean, you gave us an insurance example, but give
Yeah.
us more example as to where your clients are, other means of using the box, because you gave me a great insurance example, and I'm sure brokers will love this one. What else can you share with us?
So software as a service is huge. A lot of times what you're looking for if you have a SaaS platform is a lot of people are talking about users. And how can we get people utilizing it, especially within the trial period, converting them from trial to becoming an ongoing user. You could leverage a box. This is someone in the credit repair space, so you can see a slightly different modality, but they help people repair their credit and then try and get you to start your own credit repair business, and they have all the software and the tools for it. So that box is designed to get you utilizing the platform in the first 30 days. So how do we gamify the first 30 days? And for a lot of SaaS companies, a lot of what they're looking at is how do we increase EBITDA? How do we increase getting more users? Because the more users that I have, the more monthly recurring revenue I have, the more the value of the product is. So that's a use case that is really powerful. For doctors, lawyers, service providers, there's a way that you can then say, how can I onboard clients faster to get them results faster? We're working right now. We're about to launch a box for a lawyer in the personal injury space. That how can we educate just with a step-by-step, almost gamifying the onboarding process, so his clients could get the maximum return when they start to engage with him. So that's a whole different use case that you can use. You do the same thing with realtors, the same thing with chiropractors or dentists. In the coaching space, a lot of times people sign up for 10, 25, 50,000, 100,000, $250,000 coaching programs. We've worked with coaching in the service professional place, dental coaching programs, all the way down to life coaches and people that are just helping people start their business online. You want to look at it and say, how can I paint the story of the year ahead working with them in the coaching program, but only give them what they need for that pivotal milestone. So you're reducing overwhelm. Course creators and virtual events are another avenue that you go down to. We had someone launch a box. We had two different use cases. One that we launched a box before a virtual event that had about 300 people. Based on how we structured the box experience, about a third of them were activated by posting and sharing information online prior to the event, which then when you see the other two-thirds, when they see all this activity, they start to jump on board. But how you saw the engagement between what was in the box and then the breakthroughs that were happening in the virtual experience was incredibly powerful in terms of all the content that it created for that audience. And we had someone else who literally just not only increased her show up rate almost 20% by just introducing box. She doubled her back in rate because, again, what I don't want people to do is assume that your customer is going to print out everything they need. I want to get people out of this idea of someday I'll get to it, because someday oftentimes never comes. And if you assume I have a printer, you're assuming it has ink, it has paper, it is hooked up to my computer. After I print everything out, I'm organized. I'm trying to take those excuses and obstacles off the table. And it's different being able to show up and have everything you need right in front of you. So there's so many different ways to leverage that. And ecom is our latest, which I need to send you some of it, but literally we take the same experiences as the product that we're about to launch in
Oh,
the
nice.
next month. this is another use case from an e-com standpoint that we created a box to help business owners understand how many hats they're wearing in their business, and then supporting online with additional tools and resources. So imagine going through a series of cards to pull out, I do this role, this role, this role, and this role. All of a sudden, you have a vernacular for all the different hats you're wearing in your business. And then we can take you through frameworks to say, should you keep this? Should you delegate this? Should you delete this? And so you can see boxes can just be this tool that is just designed to just take what you're already talking about or teaching, or the service that you're providing, and just making it easier for people to have the breakthrough in a tangible, tactical way that a digital only product just can't.
So I'm going to ask you a question, and this is for one of my clients, actually, Mark. I'm working with a leading, let's say, CPG company where we are working on sustainability. And one of the initiatives we were looking at, right, sustainability paper, right? You get often menus of how to use a product often when you buy something. And one of the area we talked about is, should we eliminate this instruction paper in the box? So some people, want them, probably the elderly. And the younger people probably would like to go online to look at YouTube and get this information. But you are actually highlighting to us there's a value, right? If you actually do the writing in the right way. How would you, have you worked in sustainability? How would you reinvent an experience which actually today requires, heavy paper, a lot of content in the box, which might not be always relevant, very tiny, very tiny writing for them to actually deliver an experience which is really unique for their customers?
Yeah, it's such a good question. What I will tell you is, why do I like instructions in some way, shape, or form? If I anchored on that, why it's such a critical thing is instructions to me are all about minimizing chaos. Imagine playing a board game and not reading the instructions. And if you didn't read the instructions, if I told you let's play Monopoly, but we didn't read the instructions to say when you roll the dice, you go left, and the game changes to say when you roll the dice, you can go left or right, chaos could pursue because it fundamentally changes the nature of the game. And what I want to minimize people doing is assuming how to utilize the product. And so that's kind of where like I've seen people, launch programs that they have a buttoned up vision for the front, but like navigating is a mess. And then there's the result. And you kind of have people go through these programs and they get to the end and you're like, how did you get here? Um, Good thing about instructions is it's truly about minimizing chaos. And you can always leverage modalities that are now just mainstay, like a QR code on a box or on one of the widgets that says, here are the instructions. And now I've seen people do audio instructions so they could listen to them, or video instructions and something that's a little bit more engaging that kind of brings to life how to navigate if they didn't want to include the physical. The good news is paper is relatively inexpensive. And so you could always have something in there that just navigates them to where, but I'm a proponent of not assuming people are going to navigate the experience the way you want them to, because I see that as a fault that a lot of businesses do. And the other example that I'd give you is, it's like checkers versus chess. They both are played on the exact same game board, but the rules are completely different. If I play checkers with chess rules, I will fail. If I play checkers with chess rules, I will fail. And so this is kind of why I find just having that instructions is so important, just to make sure you're minimizing that chaos that could pursue. So that's kind of
Yeah,
where I'm at. And then there's
fascinating.
just ways to lay it out that if it's about like, let's minimize contents inside box, there's probably some component in the box that we could easily do a call out, even if it's watching a video and a video
Yeah.
welcome, that could be a lot more effective. But that's the great thing about every single smartphone. You open the camera app and it's also a QR code reader, whereas AI or augmented reality just isn't there yet in terms of how it's integrated with technology. It's evolving and getting there. It's come a long way, but COVID taught us how to scan QR codes in restaurants, and now
Yeah.
it's a powerful modality.
Indeed. Indeed. So would like you to address both young ventures and corporates because you actually went through the customer journey.
Yeah.
Right? A box is part of an engagement. It's a customer experience where you have a start, you have a middle, and you have an end. Where
Yeah.
do they make the biggest mistake, big and small companies? And what would be your recommendation for them to look at a different modality as they engage with their customers?
Yeah, what a great question. If I was looking at corporate, there's two different angles we could take. How can we leverage boxes in terms of the employee experience? And thinking about when you extend an offer to an employee, like retaining employees and the attrition that you see inside organizations is a massive cost center for a business. To find and replace good talent costs a lot of money, and the stats that you see with it are just, to me, insane. And so part of what you can easily do is knowing that the game of keeping good employees doesn't start day one of working with you. It starts when they get the offer. I can create an experience that they may get a box or one of a series of boxes that really indoctrinates them into the culture of the company and the values of the company and incentivizes behavior as long as they hit certain milestones, but really paint the path of what I would look at for an employee is the first year's experience or at least the first 6 months, because that's kind of when they're starting to say, is this the right fit for me? Does this fall in line with my personal goals? Do I fall in line with their vision of what they want? And so I would leverage that as a strategy to say, how do we retain especially good talent and really indoctrinate people into the way we do things? On the other end of the spectrum can be whether it's the client or the client's customers. That's what we are known for really specializing in is how do we really optimize journey and give something that people are really excited about. I mean, we see what happens when McDonald's releases the Monopoly game. That's a form of gamification, but it's also a journey that they're laying you out on as long as and there's a defined period and an incentive structure. It's a brilliant loyalty play. It's not a journey of what we typically do, but it is a form of a journey that you can do to incentivize the behavior. But you start to see their numbers and what happens when they gamify that in-house experience in a different way that's incredibly powerful. So from a corporate standpoint, there's so many different angles that you can play with it. But I think one of the areas that I'm excited to delve deeper into is how can we optimize that employee experience by just an incentive structure that we can start to introduce.
Great
On
idea.
the Yeah, and on the new venture side for people who are just getting started, again, this doesn't need to be overthought. You don't need a fully branded box experience. If you're brand new, give yourself permission to pick some of your favorite items that you like on Amazon. It's okay if it's like leans a little bit more swaggy, but what I'd rather you think through is what materials do your customers actually need? And this is why I think the most important thing is the customer journey. Having that beginning, middle, and end. So many businesses get onboarding wrong. And when you get the onboarding process wrong for your customers, it could be overwhelming. And what happens is when you see customers get overwhelmed, they start to disappear. They start to fade in the background because they don't want to feel like a failure. And part of that feeling like a failure is that like they'll blame themselves and not blame you or the program. And ultimately, I want to make it as easy as possible to say, think about when you play a brand new board game, you read the instructions. Think about when you play a new video game, they teach you how to use the controller to navigate the video game. When you go to college, you go through an orientation. They orient you on how to navigate the campus culture. How do we start thinking about truly setting up our customers or our clients up for success out of the gates and making it easy for them? And so that's kind of where I would really hinge on is to say that piece, you do it right instantly they're going to start seeing, okay, I see how your service is going to get me that result. And for people in this day and age, they're constantly asking the question, I'm protective of my money because there's a lot of uncertainty in the environment. I want to know that if I'm spending my hard-earned dollars, that I can see the pathway and have that. Anything you could do to build confidence is incredibly powerful.
Yeah, no, I definitely agree with you. And it's such a unique way to actually be in the life of our customer and prospects. And also what you also said is you can reinvent. I love the idea around employee, benefit and all those things, but then, regular box to see how they are doing. But one question that comes to mind is partnership.
Yeah.
Do you collaborate and partner with others? How can we unlock exponential growth by actually involving others as part of this equation? And what are the key factors you consider when you're nurturing those relationships with others, Mark?
Oh my goodness, it is such a good question. So partnerships, I think, are key. And the realization that I've had over this past year is that I see a lot of businesses out there that they deem success. They have a brilliant brilliant product and service. And this brilliant product or service, like they're only able to get into the hands of 50, 100, 500, 1,000, 2,500. 5,000 is like a remarkable success in this game. And I look at this saying, you have a product that could serve tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands, if not millions of people. And so part of what we're looking at is to say, when we design these experiences like 57 Hats, I truly want to get this into the hands of 100,000 business owners. And the reason for that is I know that it could serve and help so many people, which means I have to think about the challenge differently than how we're currently thinking about it with a lot of our clients. And with that, partnerships is critical. This is a partner, like for me, I come from a world that finding a good partner is hard to do because I know how I show up. And I would want to make sure that there's that reciprocation in the partnership because we can win together and truly want to win together. This is one that the dialogue that I have, because this is truly a partnership play in order to create this. For me, I had the vision for the product, but I didn't have the back end for it. I actually partnered with someone that does have the back end. He has his own staffing agency and has this whole suite of services that it just made sense for us to go to market together. And now, in terms of actual partnerships for growth, we're now looking for partners to help us, one, expose the lacks that we may not be seeing in the business in terms of how to grow it, and two, help us get in front of new audiences and starting to think about not selling one-to-one, but can I sell, find those partners that, like an association that may have 2,000, 5,000, 10,000 members that could instantly purchase a larger bulk of product and getting into more people's hands, and partnerships is a key of doing that. But for me, I think that there's values that need to align with the partnership. It's not about making the sell, it's about making sure that those who you collaborate with or connect yourself with represent the same values as you. That is really, really important to me. I want good people to win. I want bad people to fizzle out because I don't want them to. I see too many people in the online space with the wrong intention and taking advantage of people. So in
Yeah.
terms of partner, I want to make sure that it's someone that has similar values and similar goals. And truly, if you like can see the impact and lead with impact first, it's funny to see how many people start to come towards you, and you don't even have to seek them out, that help you advance the mission.
Well, as I'm listening to you speak, Mark, I'm already thinking about where I can box and unbox your boxes with some of my
Ah,
partners. And so there are things which are coming to mind, which I'll have to test, but may involve you back into the event space, actually, right?
awesome.
Boxing and unboxing, as we try to explain some of the SaaS models we are implementing in my industry with some of the leaders who are actually trying to explain their offering in really unique and different ways. But as we think about, the physical experience, how do you play in the digital world? Think about Instagram, TikTok, LinkedIn.
Yeah.
Do you actually play with the behavior sitting in those environments as you're actually looking at the trend you are bringing around physical experiences?
Such again, a good question. And me personally, my social game is about to expand in a big way. And because we're so visual in terms of what we do. There's so many different angles we could take this question, but one, unboxing is one of the biggest categories out there. And so when you want to, like when we release a box with a client, the question becomes, how do we incentivize behavior for people to want to get vocal and share? Because people, when they're excited about something, are excited to share. For them, especially if it's something new and exciting, it could give them a degree of status to be able to showcase it off and be like someone that's a first mover. And so, how do you engineer that in terms of products? Like one of the easiest things that you can do with physical products, and we've done this with a couple, is you can see that this says a founding member, and we only have 1,000 of these editions that are printed with a founding member. Once we're finished with the first 1,000, that's it. No more founding members. Activate Deck, another one of our products that helps customers visualize their customer acquisition strategy. The box set we did, we had again founding member, but we had certificates in there that rank it 1 through 1,000 because we want people one to save it and get excited. Limited edition. The cool thing about this from a box perspective is to put limited edition on a box versus not. It's a marketing tactic, but it doesn't cost you any more in terms of printing it. If it's already going to print, printing limited edition on something doesn't do that. What is limited edition? Well, the reality is everything on earth that's physical is limited. The shirt I'm wearing, the shirt you're wearing, there's a finite number. There's a finite number of these tumblers on earth. The difference is marketers came forth by saying we're going to limit scarcity and we're going to market it as limited edition. But it creates an urgency and scarcity that's really powerful and something that you can also incentivize behavior to really want people to say it out. I was a founding member of this. I have one of the limited edition versions of it. So it's a perfect way to leverage kind of like just some marketing tactics to then say how to incentivize behavior to get on those channels. But unboxing videos is huge. And so
Yeah.
this is kind of where like how do I encourage that behavior? One of the tactics that we're about to introduce to be a win-win-win is can I put something in all my client boxes that say, hey, share this, do an unboxing video, tag us on Instagram. And if you do, we'll select one winner each month to win insert iPad, insert laptop, insert some type of widget that they could win just to incentivize because for the client, it's a win because they're getting viewership. For us, it's a win because it's being tagged back to us. For the individuals, it's a win because they have the chance to win a prize. And so
Yeah.
that's a simple modality that we could do to incentivize behavior, and something that's easy to do, that keeps people wanting to share and creating that social content out.
Yeah, I've always, every so often, I would receive a present or I will get a call from one of my network partners. It's Sabine, can I send you this? And can you do a little video
Sure.
for LinkedIn or Instagram? The unboxing situation. So indeed, very popular. Now, question for you on investment, right? We have a lot of entrepreneurs listening to this podcast, and I'm sure they are going to be marvel as to the things they can do to be more relevant for their customer. But when you look at those people trying to raise funding, what would be some advice you would have for them? Because you are combining customer experience, and that customer experience could be an investor experience, right? How do you actually help them with strategies and maybe changing mindset as to how they go to market?
Yeah, it's a great question. And I mean, we've seen so many different plays from an acquisition standpoint on how to leverage our modality. And part of it is like, for instance, this, when we're rolling this out, we're going to be testing a free plus ship. So we know our numbers, we know our cost. And if I can give something to you that's high perceived value as a free plus ship, meaning you get this free, just pay shipping. But we also have a back end associated with it that what a lot of people are looking for is there's so much noise online, and especially with this rise of AI, what you're seeing is more like I remember 2 years ago, the data was saying that over a billion pieces of content was being pumped into the internet every day. And now we're in this age of AI, which it's even on more of an exponential. And so with the rise of AI, you also see this rise of digital distrust. And you see this dilution of the content and the trust of the content online. Physical is such a powerful differentiator, especially when you blend it with digital as well, because there is a barrier to entry to do it. But it's to me, it's no different than investing in Facebook ads. People put a lot of money in Facebook ads. I think this is actually a more cost-effective strategy. I've seen people leverage Box to get on podcasts by sending it out, by saying, hey, I want to send you this gift. And it truly is an experience around their book. We did that with a client, and he had an insane response rate by just sending it because people weren't doing that. A lot of people in this day and age, they're looking for a trusted mentor. They want someone that truly understands them and can help them get a result. And I don't think people want to be buying from a bunch of different influencers. They want that one trusted mentor that truly can help them have the breakthrough and get the result. If Box can help you have that breakthrough faster, then the question on their mind is going to be, okay, this is working. What's next? They're going to want to keep going. And so I had one of my mentors said, the big reason why people don't buy from you anymore, one is that you stop selling to them. You stop introducing the next piece that they need. Two, you pissed them off. You did something that turned them off and they were just like, this isn't a good fit for me. And so this idea is, are we actually, it's getting harder and harder to get someone to open their wallet in this age of digital distrust that's growing. And so if I can give you a breakthrough in the front end for a low cost or like an entry point that provides a high degree of value, and to me, this feels like a new opportunity other than go read my book. For this is something that when you sit down, I can, in less than 10 minutes, help you realize how many hats you're wearing. Or with Activate Deck, I can let you quickly see how you acquire customers. to me, that's a breakthrough that if I then supplement it with, okay, you want to go deeper, how do we take this to the next level? Well, I've already given you a breakthrough. The question is, if this is what it looks like on the front end, then what's it going to look like when I start working with you? And that's the excitement that I want to create with this.
Yeah, as you're speaking, I'm thinking, how can we make, risk management, sustainability a much more fun way to
Yeah.
access the information? Imagine if we could create an experience around, looking at climate change and all those things, but make it far more appealing to communities to really understand and educate as well communities around prevention and stuff like that. I have so many ideas coming to mind
Yeah.
just listening to you, Mark. But if you had a few recommendations for our listeners around how they get started on the physical box journey, what would be the two or three things they need to do to start thinking about building different experiences?
Such a good question. I mean, all your questions have been amazing. So thank you for that, Sabine.
My
It's a
pleasure.
breath of fresh air. What I will say is, anytime you define journey, you always start with the end in mind. And so you need to define what success looks like. And what I mean by that is businesses don't do a good job defining success for their people. So think about a marathon race. If I was to break down a marathon into three phases, there's the preparation phase, and then there's the actual running the race, and then there's post race. So very like, and what's amazing about these three phases is there's markers that we like to call triggers, that when you activate the trigger, without a shadow of a doubt, you've ended one phase and have gone into the next. So if I'm running a race, when I cross the starting line, I'm no longer prepping for the race, I'm in the race.
Yeah.
And when I cross the finish line, I'm no longer running the race, I'm now at the post race activities. And at the end of it, they incentivize, they give you the medal. The medal is a representation that you completed the journey. And I'm using it as like they've defined what success is in terms of like how to start and how to end. It's very black and white. It's undeniable. If you go to university, you may have orientation, then freshman, sophomore, junior, senior year, and then graduation. They've defined success. You've completed it. If you've met the requirements and you've graduated, you've completed that journey. If you are in karate and you're going from a white belt to a black belt, you have to collect all the belts along the way. In order to get the next belt, you have to take a test and qualify in the test. So
Yeah.
they've defined success. If we take the same concepts and say, have we defined what success looks like? And don't assume your customer knows what success is. That is something that I think is really important. So in a box experience, I truly want you to start at the end and define success. What does it look like to say, my customer or my client, without a shadow of a doubt, when they get to the end of this journey, this is what success looks like. And if it's not black and white, let's just say you're in the weight loss space, not everyone needs to lose 20 pounds. You can define the parameters of success. It doesn't need to necessarily be a black and white thing. And so this is why I think that is so critical. The second you define that, then I look at onboarding to say, how do I set them up for success? And then it's about the pieces that come. When we think about box, now if we really start with journey, I have a box experience I can build upon this journey because I've defined success, I've defined onboarding, and now I've defined the pathway towards success. And so then the question becomes, what do you need to be set up for success? And that's how we start to break down the pieces that go into a box. So that's how we'll do it. That's how I'd recommend for anyone who's in this space trying to say, where do I get started? And so always start with the end.
I love it. Thank you so much, Mark,
Of course.
coming onto the podcast and sharing so much insight. I'm going to look into doing some boxes with you. I need to find the right concept, and I would definitely introduce some of the scale-ups I work with because that would be so awesome to
Yeah.
explain some of the complexity around some of the project we are working on. If people want to find you, where should they go?
Best place to find me, you can find me on LinkedIn. You can also reach out to me on Facebook Messenger or just go to our website, customboxagency.com, and you can meet with our team. We love to hear what people are doing and what people are up to. But anytime people are trying to think through, is this a good fit? I mean, we've played with so many experiences. All these tiles behind me represent different boxes we've launched to market. And so for us, it's such a fun process. But it's such a new way to be able to truly show up and serve your customers.
Yeah, I will say to all the scale-ups and startups I work with, remember these little docs you have at the conferences. Let's just drop this. Let's maybe do a proper box with a customer journey, which really make your customers or prospect happy. Thank you, Mark, for joining me on Scouting for Growth.
Thank you.
I hope you enjoyed this episode of Scouting for Growth. Please subscribe, share with friends, and leave a 5-star rating. Your rating is so valuable. I review all of them, and my team help me adapt content to meet your needs. Also, connect with me on my preferred channels. I am a B2B growth expert, so you will find me on LinkedIn, Instagram, and Threads, and X as well as Blue Sky. All information available below. Until next, keep scouting for growth.